the United States and its allies. On Friday, after NATO rejected that request, he called out the alliance leaders, saying all the people who will die from this day will also die because of you, because of your weakness. I'm joined now by Ukraine's Foreign Minister, Dmytro Kuleba, who met yesterday with Secretary of State Blinken at the border with Poland. Blinken said he was in awe of Kuleba. Foreign Minister, welcome. Let me ask you whether you feel that you understand NATO's point of view, which is that to have the United States and Russia in active military combat against each other with American planes shooting down Russian planes is too dangerous and could result in an escalation that nobody would want.
Well, as we speak, Russian planes continue to bomb Ukrainian cities, kill Ukrainian civilians, including women and children. It's a disaster here, and we need to protect the skies. So we asked our partners two things. First, close the air, close the airspace, and second, provide us with planes which we can fly and fight in the air ourselves. Unfortunately, we haven't received positive response to either of these questions, which effectively means that our pilots will continue to fight, but they will also be shut down. Russia will dominate the sky, and that will help Russia to advance further, raising the cost of this war.
On that second request, do you have any expectation that that you will receive planes? Was that request also denied?
Well, I have expectations on both requests. It's just a matter of time. When it comes to planes, we are being assured that talks are underway and the solution is close. The problem is that we have no time for talks and solutions. We need them now. As I said, thousands of children have been killed as a result of strikes from the air. Russia ruthlessly uses its air force to bombard cities, critical infrastructure, destroys the supply of electricity and water to cities. Ukrainians are courageous people. We are fighting on the ground. We have pilots, aces, who have been fighting in the air, but our weakest kind of point is the airspace. So we need support there.
What about arms in general? Do you have enough javelins? Do you have enough Stingers? What would you like to get more of?
Well, supplies of weapons, like you mentioned, are underway. The question is how to ensure the sustainability of these supplies. I received assurances from not only from the United States, but also from other countries that these supplies will continue. As I said before, we courageously fight on the ground. We destroy a lot of Russian tanks and armored vehicles. They have more, so they throw more and more on Ukraine. And I think it's not a military act, but simply a humanitarian act to support Ukraine's willingness and ability to fight by supplying us with all necessary weapons and imposing all necessary sanctions on Russia.
Let me ask you, you mentioned negotiations. The Russians, what is the state of any kind of negotiation with the Russians? I'm puzzled whether they are at all serious, because President Putin keeps talking about what is essentially regime change in Ukraine. He keeps referring to President Zelensky and his government, including people like you, as Nazis and drug dealers. That it does not seem to me that is a partner with whom he's negotiating seriously. Are the negotiations a complete ploy, or can something real come from them?
Indeed, it's absurd to call Ukrainians Nazis. Our president is of Jewish origin, and our far-right political forces do not even make it to the parliament. They are marginalized in Ukraine. So this is a completely false narrative by President Putin. We are very cautious about negotiations with Russia, but there is no alternative to trying to find common ground and stop this war by the means of diplomacy. The recent experience, though, is that even when talks continue, even when talks are being held, Russia continues its attempts to advance in Ukraine. It continues shelling our cities. So we do not see a connection between holding the talks and putting Russian attacks on hold. I think you can make your own conclusions from this fact.
But and in the talks, are the Russian demands what we hear publicly, which is, you know, essentially recognize Crimea, recognize all of Donbass, demilitarized state, neutral, pledge to never be part of NATO, which are Russia's maximalist demands?
Yes, that's what they repeat in the talks. But again, we have to continue. We have to continue talking while we also continue fighting for our land.
Stay with us. We will be back with Ukraine's foreign minister. I'm going to ask the foreign minister what you can do if you want to help Ukraine when we come back. Between Russia and Ukraine. What do you think of that proposal?
Well, we welcome any attempt to mediate and help us stop this mad war launched by President Putin. I spoke myself with the Chinese foreign minister. He assured me that China is not interested in this war and is ready to make a contribution to putting an end to it through diplomacy. So we will welcome this effort. However, again, it was President Putin who launched this war, and it's he who has to stop. Ukraine is not making any compromises on the issues of its territorial integrity.
Is it your sense that the Chinese might pressure the Russians to acknowledge the territorial integrity of Ukraine?
It's hard to say. Chinese diplomacy works according to its own mechanics, and I'm not aware of any follow-up contacts between China and Moscow after I spoke with the Chinese foreign minister and after Secretary of State Antony Blinken spoke with him. But again, we can only count that these contacts do take place, and China is making its efforts to stop the war.
Let me ask you about getting to what people can do if they want to help. You have received a large number of foreign fighters, of people volunteering. How large is that number, and is it growing?
Yeah, this number is around 20,000 now. They come from many European countries, mostly. Many people in the world hated Russia and what it was doing in recent years, but no one dared to openly oppose and fight them. So when people saw that Ukrainians are fighting, that Ukrainians are not giving up, many felt motivated to join the fight and to bring Russia to an account for many, many things that it has done in recent years in different countries. So the wish to fight is something that we can understand. But most importantly, we need sustainable political, economic, and military support coming from as many countries as possible, and we count on the US leadership in this exercise, with special focus on air defense. This is really the key to the price that we are paying for this war. I have no doubt that we will prevail because we fight for the right cause on the right side of history on our land, but it's a question of cost. If the West, if the United States and others do not help us to solve the air defense problem, the costs will be much, much more higher, and we will have our country destroyed by air raids. We have many more civilians killed. And every year we repeat these words, never again, in Ukraine, in Europe, in North America, to commemorate the Great War. This is exactly the time when every politician has to prove that he or she is able to take tough, difficult, but responsible decisions in order to stop the war and not to say after the war, never again.
Let me ask you about another piece of news. Shell, the oil company, announced that it was buying Russian oil, but that it would, for its refineries, but that it would donate the profits from this oil to some kind of Ukrainian cause. They didn't specify what. Is that appropriate in your view? What would be your message to Shell?
Stop buying Russian oil. And this goes not only to Shell, but also to other companies. Some tough measures were imposed in Russia, but we all know that their biggest revenues come from trade in oil and gas. And today, Russian oil and gas smells Ukrainian blood. So instead of donating money to us, just stop buying it. This is the best thing you can do, and all Western companies must withdraw from Russia. Again, not on commercial or political, but on humanitarian grounds. We were upset to hear that companies like Coca-Cola and McDonald's remain in Russia and continue providing their products. It's simply against the basic principles of morale to continue working in Russia and making money there. This money is soaked with Ukrainian blood.
Foreign Minister, it's a pleasure to have you on. I think we got from you what you would want ordinary people to do: petition their governments on air defenses, on weapons, petition companies not to buy Russian oil. You're a brave man, and it's an honor to have you on, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Next on GPS, Vladimir Putin and his lawmakers have all but quashed Russia's free press. I will talk to a brave Russian journalist whose station had to stop broadcasting this week. We will be back in a moment.